There's a tradition every year in the U.S. Senate, a reading of George Washington's farewell address.
Why, by intervening our destiny with that of any part of Europe, entangle our peace and our prosperity in the toils of European ambition?
The force of Washington's legacy in this address guided American foreign policy for over 100 years, until it didn't.
It is a mainstay of debate right up and through World War I. They are debating whether we should get involved in our first overseas war. It was a total violation of everything Washington says. And what Wilson tries to do is basically says, well, the wisdom of Washington's warning needs to be updated, even if it's not totally outdated.
The update came with millions of volunteers signing up to serve in World War I. Most of them wound up on the Western Front where they expected to be. The 339th Infantry, the Michigan Polar Bears, however, did not. They were sent to North Russia to fight the Bolsheviks. The hopes were they could persuade Russia to rejoin the war against Germany. I visited the Michigan Military Museum in Frankenmuth to talk with Mike Grobel, president of the Polar Bear Association and a grandson of a distinguished polar bear veteran.
When they found out they were going to France, they were bitter. They said, we agreed when we were drafted, we were doing this to go fight the Hun. We want to go to the Western Front. We don't want to be going to North Russia. They hated the idea when they were told that they were going to North Russia, but that was duty. That was what they were told to do, so they did it. The temperature had been 40 below. Snow was typically up to around your knee, a little above your knee. The British gave them coats that were down almost to the ankle. You couldn't march.
Mike's grandfather, Clement Grobel, demonstrated valor in these conditions, winning the Distinguished Service Cross for actions in combat.
He moved his machine gun out of the emplacement where it was provided some measure of safety and moved it up to the top of the railroad embankment so he could shoot down and across to help repel the attack.
The mission seemed futile. Maybe Washington had it right. But then Mike shared a story from his visit to Russia, and the role of our soldiers overseas started to look different.
She talked about how Americans, you fraternized with our people against your orders. You brought the Spanish influenza up here and you decimated our communities. But she says, you fed our orphans, you fed our children, which was more than the British ever did. So she says, for that we thank you.
This idea of service came up in all of the interviews. This is Fred Siebold, a Vietnam veteran from the Navy CB Division. His tour of service took an unexpected turn.
Mainly children would come along, and a lot of them couldn't speak English, in good English. So they would always interpret, and we would talk, and friendly, we enjoyed them, because we got into some of the little hamlets and the little villages, and the people are all around, meaning the civilians. So we would talk and get along well with them.
It was these civilians, these children, who would change his life forever.
When I first heard about the idea that we could adopt someone over there, that was really interesting to us because we were having trouble having children at that time.
One day he found himself hitchhiking to an orphanage he wasn't really sure where to find, but he did.
I walk in this one room, and I would say there's probably about 60 little kids in there, infants, they're in cribs and stuff, nobody around. And I look around at all these kids and I think we're about 60. And I see this one girl in the crib. And I said, if only that would be our daughter. It was. That was my purpose for being there. It was a God thing. We would have, of course, never had Kim or Cindy or who knows what we would have had for kids that we wanted really bad. Made it all possible and all worthwhile.
Debbie Stabenow was one of 23 senators to vote against the Iraq War. So what does she think about overseas involvement?
Our men and women also are great ambassadors when they are in country, in reaching out, in engaging in important ways with the people in the country. I think we have a responsibility to the extent that we can to set an example as people that care. I believe what it means to be as American is to stand up for the humanitarian efforts for people being able to live their own lives and be safe.
In 2013, while Haiyan, the strongest typhoon to make landfall on record, hit the Philippines, the American military in the Pacific prepared relief.
The Marines have delivered 107,000 pounds of relief supplies to the government of the Philippines. Our priority for supplying aid is potable water, food, shelter, hygiene products, and medical supplies.
The United States military provided 2,200 personnel, 13 warships, 21 helicopters, and 2,200 tons of food, blanket, and other aid materials. All told, $38 million in aid was distributed. China, another world superpower, initially offered $100,000. I can't say that a legacy of overseas service began with the polar bears, but their story came at a time when a new chapter in American story was being written. If they weren't the first, they were among the first, and every time I see the Polar Bear Memorial in my hometown of Troy, Michigan, I am reminded of their service and what it means to be an American.